Welcome back to some new Malicious Compliance Stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Sick Pay. My wife and I are both working, and meanwhile our 2 kids are in daycare, if they are not sick. Our agreement was that if a child is sick, one stays home the first day, the other one the next day, and so on, until the child is fit again, or one of us catches it too. On the one hand, that way care work is split evenly amongst us, and on the other hand, nobody misses suddenly work for an extended time. We are entitled to 30 days of child sick pay, per child and per parent. It doesn't cover everything, but about 85 to 90%. Because we are alternating each day, we get 1 doctor's notice per day and split them accordingly among us. Instead of 1 notice for a week, we would have 5, which we submit to our employers and have insurance to deal with each other and get paid. HR, coincidentally the wife of my manager, told me that it's too much hassle to deal with a few papers instead of a single one. So one of us should stay at home, implying my wife, as it's sadly still pretty normal for the mother to deal with care work. We did comply, but I will take my paid child sick days until I run out, and then my wife will start to cover it. Since then, our children were sick twice, and I stayed home the whole time, 3 days and a week. My manager asked why I wasn't coming in as I used to, and that some orders nearly missed their deadlines. I said the HR manager, his wife, wanted it that way, and I still have around 50 days of child sick pay left. I really enjoyed the look on his face. The next story is called Nothing Wrong With It. My SUV was throwing error codes, so we took it to the dealership to have them look at it. They informed us that the computer just needed a reset and everything was good. We didn't believe them, so when we went to pick it up, my husband drove it around the parking lot. Just as we suspected, it was driving awful and now making a horrible noise. So we went back inside and told them they were wrong and to fix it properly. Several days later, they called us back to say that they figured it out and it was definitely fixed now. Something to do with the transfer case, and a 2000 bill later, we are told it's fixed and we won't have any further issues. Great, but as soon as I drive it away, I get error codes again. By this point, we are beyond frustrated, because this vehicle just keeps costing us money and is being nothing but issues for the past year or so. So we take it to the dealership and tell them we'd like to sell it. The lady evaluating it asks us if there's anything wrong with it, and I inform her that I just picked it up from your service department earlier today, and they told us that it works perfectly. She takes the keys and goes out to look at it, comes back in and asks about the flashing lights and some weird things. We agree with her and let her in on the story. We walk over to the service desk and inform them that their sales department won't buy it because there's something wrong with it. So why does the service department keep telling us that there's nothing wrong with it? He went so red and immediately went to speak with his manager. They ended up having to call the vehicle engineers to figure out how to fix it. And we only had to pay the cost of the part that apparently would actually fix it. I can't say for certain if it was finally fixed or not, because the day I picked it up, I traded it in for a different make. The third story is called Only for Patients. I was sitting in my wife's hospital room and a nurse asked if there was anything she could get me. I had a bit of a tickle in my throat and was thirsty, so I asked for something carbonated. She brought me a ginger ale. Great, problem solved. Next shift, a nurse asked the same question and I asked for a ginger ale. She brought me a ginger ale with no problem. Next shift, no problem. Then things get interesting. The morning shift comes in. This nurse asked the same question. I asked for a ginger ale. She told me those are for patients only. I had to go to get my own. So I Instacarted a ginger ale along with a few other things with instructions to deliver to the room. They were taking my wife away to surgery and the Instacart shows up at the same time. He asked if anyone ordered groceries. I waved my hand up and asked him to leave it in the room. The nurse exclaimed, "You can't do that." I told her, "You told me I had to get my own," so I did. The sheer look of her head blowing a gasket was priceless. The next story is called Messed Up Termination. I worked for a small company for the last 2 years as a software developer. And with small, I mean that I was the only employee. So for many projects my boss had, I wrote the main part of the codebase. In March, I made a mistake in one of the updates. From then on, my boss made it a habit to yell at me at least once every day and tell me how stupid I am. Additionally, he started to call me outside of my working hours to demand fixes for problems that, for the most part, were his own mistakes. To be fair, my code quality started to go downhill after I had several mental breakdowns thanks to his behavior. At the start of May, he said to me that he doesn't want to fire me, but would recommend that I find another job in the next month. So I applied to several companies and was waiting for the responses, when he decided to terminate me nonetheless 2 weeks later. He wrote a termination letter and sent it to my home address, but didn't say a word to me. I was quite shocked when I received the letter, which stated that I was fired starting July the 1st and that I should take my remaining 20 vacation days, which is the rest of my annual leave, in June. In Germany, where I work, the employer is only obliged to give you the rest of your annual leave if you worked more than 6 months in the company for this year. Additionally, an important project I had been working on since February was due in mid-June and not even close to finished because my boss had prioritized tickets from other projects. So I wrote my boss that I would like to take the vacation days immediately, as written in the termination. But if he needed help finishing the current project, I would be willing to have the remaining vacation days paid out to me. As soon as I sent the message, I saw in the chat program that he was typing. He answered that the number of vacation days in the letter of termination was a minor spelling mistake and that I only had 6 days left. After a quick chat with an attorney, who started laughing when I told him of my boss's reaction, I wrote my boss a formal mail. I informed him that I would definitely take the vacation days, as stated in the letter. And because the termination also stated that the remaining vacation days will not be paid out, I will withdraw the offer. The next week, he grudgingly accepted the 20 vacation days. I will never forget the expression of defeat on his face on the last day when he realized that the project he took a loan for was about to phenomenally fail. I was the only one working on it, and he didn't even try to understand how it works. His slogan always was, "As long as it works, I don't care." The last story is called Equal Equipment. I was part of a technology pilot program that wanted every kid to have a laptop to accompany their schooling. My school, being in an affluent neighborhood, assumed that every student would bring their own half-decent laptop to class. They said they would provide laptops to those that could not afford them. They were right to think that this would be a reasonably small amount, at least initially. My parents were unable to buy a laptop after some troubling financial situations arose, so we asked the school to provide one. What a hunk of junk that was. The total polar opposite of the top-end fancy laptops available at the time. It had the computing power of synthetic peanut butter and the resolution of a knockoff kaleidoscope. I had a lot of fun with that machine. Anyway, it was very slow in comparison to what my peers were using. The school, in its infinite wisdom, thought that the 10 times slower response time would not be an issue. I informed them that I would be at a significant disadvantage to the other students, but they brushed it off. I was near the top of my class, but not by so far I could just take a handicap like that. But alas, all that protest was in vain. Well, if they wanted it that way, that's what they were going to get. The first computer-based test, 30 minutes. My classmates finished after 15 to 20 minutes. Guess who was stuck there nearly an hour after my classmates? Yeah, that was fun. Somehow, this was my fault though. The teachers proctoring knew it wasn't. The IT department knew it wasn't. Yet it was still my fault for being slow. I got reprimanded for that. So come the next test, I asked to take the test on paper instead. The leader of the pilot program went on this long lecture about how the experience is different. Screw this, it's a math test. How much more different can it be? After another excruciatingly long testing period, the teacher sent me a copy of the paper test. He said he'd overlook it for now and submit the test through his own account, citing technology troubles. Lo and behold, it's literally no different from the test I was just taking. A few days after taking that second test, parents started complaining. Can you guess why? A student who gets good grades is also allowed 2 times extra time? Yeah, that totally went over well. My grades actually didn't really improve much from that, but the point still stands. Those parents were so infuriated by the disparity in technology available that they pushed for the school to enforce a minimum standard of laptops. Myself, I can't complain too much. I got a free, good laptop. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.